Hello and welcome to Drilling Insight. I'm Jeremy Verduzco, host and editor of the Driller magazine. I'm joined today by drilling trainer, the Driller writer, and co-host, Brock Yorty. Welcome, Brock.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited here. We're actually above freezing today for the first time in many days. So, I'm certainly taking advantage of it, taking long walks with the dog, getting that out of the way today. So how are things with you?
They're excellent. And I'm excited because we have an awesome contributing writer, columnist that talks very important topics to our industry that we don't pay enough attention to.
Yeah. So on today's show, we have the Driller columnist, Jessica Alexander. Thanks for being on the show, Jessica. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So Jessica is Director of Talent Acquisition for Cascade Environmental, which provides environmental and geotechnical drilling services across the U.S. She also contributes the newly renamed All Crewed Up column for the Driller. So we brought her on to talk about hiring and managing crews and other drilling related topics. So let's jump right in. Jessica, did you choose this industry or did it choose you?
This industry definitely chose me. I can say I had no idea what environmental drilling, site characterization, remediation, all of those terms basically sounded like something out of a sci-fi novel to me, to be quite honest. So it took about a good year for me to learn this industry. So it's definitely one that just kind of reaches out and grabs you and it has to pull you in.
Well, let's jump right into it and talk about hiring. First, do we even need to hire? If a company isn't sure about adding or replacing a full-time employee, what things should they consider to make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think a lot of organizations, especially for drilling companies, when we get into kind of that growth mode where we want to grow the business. And I think one of the common misconception is that, well, you have to hire people in order to grow your business. And that's definitely a big piece of it. That's an important piece of it. But I think even more importantly is making sure you keep an eye on your equipment and keeping an eye on your project schedule, your workload, the clients that you have, the clients that you don't have. I think you have to look at all three of those things sort of as a package deal. Look at the people that you have right now that you can send out to a job site. And looking out a month, 6 months, what does your project schedule and workload look like? And then do you have the equipment that you need to support that project workload? So the last thing we want to do is hire a bunch of extra people and then maybe we don't have the rigs to put them on, or we don't have the projects to keep them busy. So that's definitely the three things I would consider.
So it's obviously the beginning of a new year. When people think about HR, they think about December. How are we changing our healthcare? Has everyone got their insurance handled? And, those types of things. But as the new year starts, what are some of the things that we need to be thinking about as relates to our employees for getting the year started right?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's always so many priorities that we have in terms of management and leadership and taking care of our employees. Towards the end of the year, we have open enrollment. Want to make sure that we're, squaring everything away with our employee benefits. Q1 tends to be more of a time, at least for most drilling companies and most organizations, for focal point reviews. So it's focusing on performance management and goal setting. I think that's a really important conversation to have as we get into the new year with our employees. Let's talk about where you are right now. Let's talk about where you want to be by the end of the year. What are some long-term goals that you have for yourself? And asking our employees, how can we support your development? How can we help you grow and really keep you engaged in the work that you're doing? So I really think that that's probably our biggest priority in Q1. Setting those expectations, making sure that our employees have goals and that they're aligned really well to what the company wants to achieve as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, very much.
So it's an employee's market right now in the industry. And guys and gals don't have qualms about jumping jobs. It's the great resignation. The grass is always greener. What retention tips do you have for companies trying to hang on to their best talent?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a single company right now that isn't struggling with this. And, being that we are such a niche industry, it hits us really hard. I kind of jokingly say this, it's like a revolving door, right? Everybody in the environmental drilling industry knows everybody. And you might meet somebody that's working for your company now that's worked for 3 of your other competitors. So we do kind of have that revolving door mentality. And what I notice a lot is, employees that will leave the organization to work for a competitor or even another industry, a company in another industry, because they get, let's just say, $1 more an hour. And it's frustrating because what happens is, I think a lot of times as organizations, we fail to communicate total rewards to our employees. And it's not about just that bottom line pay rate. Of course, that's a huge part of total compensation and total rewards, but there are so many other components that, holistically, I don't think we do a great job of communicating to our employees. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of total rewards. Spell it out for them, really help your employees understand what kind of costs that the company incurs on their behalf, for their medical benefits, for their 401k. Think about the overtime rates, the per diem that your guys get. And do they get a private hotel room? All of these things that maybe they're not necessarily thinking of when they leave for $1 an hour more somewhere else. But they need somebody to talk through that with them. A lot of times they make these decisions kind of rashly to leave. And we want to make sure that they really do have a solid understanding of what they're walking away from. So to answer your question, Brock, you've got to communicate total rewards to employees. That's the biggest way you can impact your retention. Now, secondary to that is stay interviews. And I've written a lot of columns on this. I talk about it a lot. Super important. Would definitely recommend that, if organizations out there are not doing them, especially with your top drillers, your senior drillers, you have to do those, right? That the best way to prevent a good employee from leaving is to talk to them about why they might leave, right? We don't know that there's an issue unless we're proactively uncovering that. So that would be my kind of add-on there, splurge about stay interviews.
And so a stay interview, for those that don't know, is just it's a touch point with your employee. Like, make a one-on-one meeting. How are you doing? What are you thinking? Right? Are there any other components that go along with that, or am I mischaracterizing that?
No, yeah, you're dead on. You want to talk about what are some of the things that motivate you about this job? What do you like about it? What gets you excited when you wake up in the morning? What do you necessarily not like? Is there something that maybe you don't like doing because you're just not that good at it and you need additional training and resources and support? Or do you just not like this type of work? So yeah, it's really digging into and trying to understand what motivates them. What are those internal things? And, not everyone wants money. Some people want to be recognized in front of their peers. They want that public pat on the back. So without sitting down and having those conversations, you don't know how to motivate and energize your employees. So that's another really important component of stay interviews.
Mm-hmm. So I'm the head of a drill company, and I want to bring in a new driller by the end of Q1. Kind of walk us through that process. How do I find a person in this market? How do I find a person with the skill set I need? And how do I go about building that good kind of total compensation package that you referenced a few minutes ago?
Ooh,
This is a big one. Yeah.
A loaded question. You go a lot of routes with that one. I talked about in the beginning here, setting your goals, right? Understanding how many people do I need to hire realistically this month, this quarter, this year, considering your project workload, considering the equipment that you have. It also is a big time investment to hire people, right? If your company's using an applicant tracking system, someone has to be working the back end of that system and looking at job applicants. It takes a commitment from operations. Somebody has to be calling, texting, and conducting these interviews with applicants. So you're looking at a huge time investment. So I would say that the approach to that is really going to vary based on the size of your organization and the support that you have around human resources and recruiting, because that will drastically change your strategy. But first and foremost is you have to get the word out there, right? If you look at hires, it might take you 10 interviews to get a good hire. And out of that 10 interviews, it might take you 50 job applicants. So you have to look at those numbers, and you have to understand that in order to make that one quality hire, you have to proactively be building your pipeline through reaching out to different candidate pools. And there's so many different ways you can do that. I mean, there are veteran organizations, there's state employment organizations. So there's a lot of different options and different strategies that you can use to do that. But it's very important to keep an eye on your applicant flow and your applicant pool, because without that, when that starts slipping, it puts you in a really hard place.
So finding these highly skilled laborers, drillers, helpers, you're a big company, has to be different than trying to find, say, office staff, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's funny because I come from a professional services recruiting background. I was recruiting civil, structural, and mechanical engineers in Texas. So for me to come in now, I've been recruiting, skilled trade blue collar drillers for 4 years. It's almost dreadful to me when I get, a requisition or a request to hire an accountant, or, we need an officer. Like, oh no, it's almost like I have to, turn this new brain off that I've been using for 4 years, go back and say, okay, well, how do I hire an accountant? And I have to really, it's literally a brain swap for me, because drillers aren't on LinkedIn. They don't care about, their professional persona, but an accountant sure will. They're going to be on LinkedIn. And so it's just getting into the mindset of who you're recruiting for. I think that's a big one. One thing that we're working on this year with my recruitment team is we are developing what we're calling the driller persona. And we're doing a lot of research. We are digging up profiles on Facebook to see, let's look at 500 people that are drillers on Facebook, and let's see what their interests are. Let's see what pages they like. Let's see what kind of education do they have? Is it high school? Is it this? And really helping you kind of create this picture, this target of what your ideal candidate would look like. Because once you have that, it's a lot easier to tailor your recruitment strategies to those people, to understand what they like and where to find them. So it's really helped us get some great insights. Like if we want to hire a driller, posting on LinkedIn is not going to help us, but sponsoring a booth at a NASCAR event, it actually might. So using those data points to draw those kinds of conclusions has been really helpful. But yeah, Brock, you're talking night and day there when it comes to hiring a skilled trade position and hiring an office person.
Yeah. So I've got my driller. I've got, we've gone through HR, the package is accepted, and they're getting deployed to the job site. As a company, as a manager, what mistakes should I avoid when I want to set the tone right for this new hire?
Brock said something at NGWA Groundwater Week that really stuck to me, and I have communicated the heck out of it with my operations managers. And that is, we have got to be warm and fuzzy, and we're not. We're such a anti-warm and fuzzy industry. Everything is it's a whole different industry. It's very special. It's very unique. But we really, we have these old school drillers and these old school ops managers that, they've been doing things for so long. It's just ingrained in who they are. So, Brock had a great example of, a guy drops a piece of tooling, or he does something that's, just completely unsafe, and it makes you so angry, and the driller just freaks out and, sets the tone for the whole rest of the day that if you make a mistake, you're going to get screamed at. So that's a huge one. I mean, you really have to, if you're going to put a new guy out on a crew, you've got to pay attention to who you're putting them with. We've harped on this for a couple years now, the importance of the new hire mentor. We even have as part of a new hire's onboarding, the operations manager has to assign that person a mentor. It's usually a senior driller, but that relationship is so important. Secondary to that, frequent communications. We have 30-day, 90-day, and 6-month touch points where we proactively talk to the ops manager and we say, hey, have you checked in? You know, it's been 30 days. You need to follow up with your employee. Ask them, you know, do they understand the expectations of the job? Is there anything that's unclear to them? Are they having any challenges that maybe you don't know about? You know, I think a lot of times we just assume, well, if somebody needs help or something's not working, they'll raise their hand, they'll say something. In this environment, that doesn't happen. These guys are not, they're not going to raise their hand and say, excuse me, Mr. Senior Driller, can you tell me how my performance is being evaluated? They're not going to ask that, okay? But you can bet, you know, 6, 7, 8 months from now, when they get a performance review and it's not that great, they're going to have questions. So, you know, it's important to have those conversations, have them early, you know, don't wait until performance review time. Don't wait until they're giving their 2-week notice or walking out the door. Check in with them frequently. You know, our managers do that. We do that with HR. I will call and text new employees. I have reminders on my calendar, every new employee that we hire. They get emails, they get texts. We check on them. Do you need anything? How can we support you? So I would say that's really the best thing that you can do.
That is excellent. And yeah, we do need that warm and fuzzy. It's since we're such a big family industry, you know, everything came from that. It's almost like that feeling from a son or daughter and the parent that's running the company saying, good job, you completed this. You know, it's that validation. And thinking of that, you're a big company, your drilling projects are all over the country. You got men and women, new and, you know, been with the company for a while, traveling. You know, how do you accommodate, you know, that with family conditions? You know, how do you make this a positive for young employees that they know they're going to be away from home for 2 to 3 weeks at a time?
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this about me, so I will go ahead and share this. My husband is a driller assistant for Cascade. Um, I started working in this industry before he did. He got interested in it. You know, I was bringing home core samples of rock, and it looked really cool. You know, he was starting to ask questions, and I'm always bragging to everybody about, you know, I'm just like the biggest Cascade brand ambassador on the planet. I love the company. So he got interested, and he started in this industry about, March 2020. So going on 2 years now. It's rough. It's rough, guys. We have a 2 and a 4-year-old. You know, I wish there was an easy answer to that question, Brock, but it's hard. I mean, it really does take it takes a real commitment and dedication and really just understanding that it's temporary, right? Because yes, you might be on the road for 10 days. So for example, my husband was on 10 and 4. He was gone 10 days. He was home for 4 days. And that was rough for about 3 months, but then he had a month and a half off over the holidays. So it was great. You know, it was a free for all. The kids were thrilled. So it's taking the good with the bad. Also, I mean, looking at the career progression opportunities, because we're such a niche industry, you can really move up here. I have seen us hire, people that came in as a driller assistant and then became a field supervisor and a PM. And are able to climb that ladder and had really great mentors, really strong support system. So I think it's important to reinforce that with the younger guys, make sure that they're aware not just of the financial perks of the job, but that they can be recognized and that they can grow their career as well. With the travel, I think I did a blog for the Driller recently where I said, there's a lot of great things you can do when you're traveling. I know when I travel for work, I studied for my PHR exam. I got my professional human resources certification. So I studied for that. I would sightsee when I would go to different places. I would go to the gym in the hotel every night and work out, something you don't necessarily get to do when you're home with your spouse and your kids. So, you really got to give them that perspective. You have to take the good with the bad.
So, this is kind of a related question. Say you're sending crews out for, 3-4 weeks, maybe 3 months on a project. How do you keep morale up on, a particular project if it's a long protracted thing? We're doing 100 holes here, 50 holes here. How do you keep that kind of morale up on an extended project?
I can think of a couple good examples recently for that. We won a big project in Kentucky, and what the guys really like, we have a CEO call every quarter where we talk to Ron, we get updates on the company, and it's the entire company is welcome to join the call. And he's really good about recognizing achievements and things that are going well. So it means a lot to the guys to have a shout out from the CEO on the CEO call to the whole company. I mean, that's huge. So we do a lot of that. We have an internal platform called Gusto that's all about employee recognition. If you get a DOT coin, if you get a safety coin, if you get any kind of recognition from a client, it's shared internally. And we have a leaderboard around that. We have gift cards around that where the guys, can get $25 gift cards just because the client gave them a compliment, So we have all of those things. We also are very good about putting that out externally. If you go to Cascade's Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those pages, you will see so many posts about just the great things that our guys are doing out on the site and how appreciative our clients are. And that it means a lot. It might seem like a small gesture, but our marketing department does just a phenomenal job of putting out information about the things our employees are doing. The second idea, another site that we did recently is just, having your area VP or even your ops manager come out to the site and take the guys out to dinner. We recognize you can't.
Oh, everyone loves dinner.
Yeah, right. Get them a steak, right? These guys they're not even eating lunch most days. They're working through lunch. They get back to the hotel room. They've worked 14 hours. They're tired. They order a pizza. They go to bed. Set aside one night where they only work 8 hours. I know that's crazy, but have one night where they work 8 hours. You come, you pick the guys up, you take them out to Outback, some classy steakhouse, Applebee's. And you just treat them, and tell them how much you appreciate of it. It really does go a long way.
Do you recruit from any of the major drilling schools?
What major drilling schools? That's what I would ask you.
Oh, come on. We have Sir Sanford Fleming. We have
yes, we do.
Okay.
So in terms of drilling schools, I'm only aware of two schools that align very well to what we do. One is Fleming College in Canada. The other is I don't even remember the name, but it's in Australia. So we do not recruit from that. Fleming College, yes, we have, in the 4 years I've been here, well, prior to COVID, we would fly up to Canada every February for their event, which if you've never gone to one, they're amazing. Fleming has some amazing career fairs. I could tell you that the line of students that want to talk to a US-based drilling company is out the door. The two events that we did go to, Cascade was the only US drilling company that attended the fair, and everybody wanted to talk to us because they all wanted to come work in the US. So yes, that is a great source. Anybody that's not utilizing that, definitely got to do it. I'm happy to share all my secrets if anybody wants to reach out to me, because there are plenty of students in that program, and man, they are smart. They come out of that program and they really hit the ground running and they do just a phenomenal job.
So your whole family, well, you and your husband are now in drilling. You've obviously doubled down on the industry. Where do you see the industry going in 5 years?
Growing a lot. I mean, there's so many. It's almost impossible to keep up with, and I don't know how you guys do it with all of the infrastructure bills and all of the, everything the legislator that's constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing, but I think it's a very solid industry. I think that people are starting to learn more about environmental services and environmental drilling. I know that Cascade spends a great deal of time educating people about what this industry is and what we do, and it resonates well with the younger generations, like Brock was talking about with the warm and fuzzy, the millennial. They want to be a part of an industry and an organization that has a bigger purpose, cleaning up the earth and making the ground clean and safe to build on, and safe drinking water, and all of those kind of, buzzwords. So yeah, I mean, I think the industry has a very bright future. I think that, as drilling companies, big, small, medium size, we all have a shared responsibility of getting the word out there, right? And really selling this industry and what it is that we do. I don't care if it's a competitor, Big Greg Drilling, or, any of those. I work very closely with Sudeco and Talon and all of those, developing different drilling programs to get people into the industry, right? Because what benefits the industry as a whole will benefit each of us as a company, as an organization.
Well, I think with that, we can wrap up today's episode. Thanks again, Jessica. So I'm really interested in the stay interview concept that you talked about, and I think it's really on point, that the kind of guys that wouldn't raise their hand and say, oh, my back hurts today, I can't lift this, I'm not going to do that. The guys that would be hesitant to say that would be hesitant to stick up their hand and say, I don't quite understand this, or maybe I need a little training on that. So I think that's a good tactic that employers should kind of deploy. What are your thoughts, Brock?
I think you're right, Jeremy. The stay interview is critical. We've been an industry that's so reactionary that we hear so-and-so is going to go work for somebody else, and we immediately, knock over a multiple dominoes because we go, what will it take for you to stay? And we have all of these great productive employees that are like, wait, but I'm getting muddy and I'm cold and my back hurts and I'm still working, and I'm not threatening to stay. Is this the only, or threatening to leave is the only way I get compensation? It very much what Jessica hit on right in the beginning about following up with your people, knowing what they want, if they're happy, because we're a proud industry. It's tough. We're away from our family. There's so many rewarding aspects, but there's some defeating aspects. And if you're working through these tough situations, and then you see something like that behavior, it's demoralizing, and then that really can, negatively impact a crew.
Yeah, great point. It festers, and what one person feels, these guys talk, right? You go out to the projects, you hear them in the work truck, they talk about those things. So yeah, you're dead on.
So, well, thanks again to Jessica Alexander. Where can the audience find out more about you and Cascade?
Sure. Yeah. You can email me, jalexander@cascade-env.com. Also, if you go to the About Us or Our Team tab on the Cascade website, there's some information about me there as our company's diversity chairman. So you can reach out to me that way. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just search me by my Cascade email.
Yeah. Even though drillers aren't on LinkedIn, right?
Even though drillers aren't on LinkedIn, I'm in all of the geotechnical environmental drilling groups on Facebook.
Great. Well, you can find fresh episodes of our show on our website or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Search Drilling Insight and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to visit thedriller.com for the latest industry news and views, and also follow us on the usual social media channels. So until next time, this is Drilling Insight.